Hello, I'm Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I am joined by the
Cheerful Chip.
and together we are going to be looking at the Japan 7-year anniversary stream. So, early this morning, Melvin stayed up very early, and what did you do?
I just translated everything from Japanese to English on a Reddit post. And then that's it.
That's it. Excellent. So together we're going to provide our commentary and insights as to what is going to be coming because generally speaking, the Japanese server is 2 or so months ahead of North America. So we can use this stream as an opportunity to see into the future, and that will allow us to make intelligent decisions for our monster box in terms of like evolution materials to prepare and plan for, as well as saving magic stones for desirable events. So, firstly, there will be 2 returning collabs and 2 new collabs which we may or may not get. But the first one is...
Monster Hunter collab and...
Well, what's good about the Monster Hunter collab?
Well, first of all, there's a lot of valuable equips. So, there's a lot of valuable equips, and I would say the most valuable one of them all is, I believe it's called Rathian.
Yeah, Raytheon or Krallis Rapier. Mm-hmm. Yep. So generally speaking, like the Monster Hunter collab is one of the, still today, right now, at this point in time, is one of the most valuable collabs to roll in, even though it's a 10 Magic Stone event, and even without any buffs, it's still worth rolling in, because all of the 5-star cards, for the most part, have value because they can be transformed into weapon assists, and many of these weapon assists are the very crucial 60% resist for either jam or poison and blind, and that means just with 2 of those, or another 40%, or even 2 Trojan horses, you have ways to achieve 100% immunity to those problematic encounters. And with Raytheon, who is just as powerful as King Bradley's weapon assist, basically, is the idea you have 60% poison resist, so you can basically resist the most lethal mechanic at this point in the game. So even without any buffs, Monster Hunter is definitely worth rolling in. With buffs, they're probably just going to be stat buffs for the lower cards, if that. Limit Break, Super Awaken, which is not applicable to weapon assists, and then the upper value cards will obviously gain those, so your Amatsu could have even more health. It should be able to have more health than Ilmina, because, you know, a little fluffy creature or a big dragon. What has more health?
A little fluffy.
Exactly, right? That does not make sense. We're playing puzzle and fluffy cards, of course. But the point of the matter is, it's going to be returning back. It's going to have buffs. I'm assuming it's mostly going to be Limit Break, Super Awakenings, because we already have the weapon assists. So, save stones for that. I'm going to be saving stones for that just to roll Raytheon at least on both of my accounts. And because it's a 5-star rarity, it's going to be much easier to acquire. And the next returning collab is...
Yu Hakusho? I can't pronounce it right.
YYH. Exactly. That's why I call it YYH, because pronunciation is difficult. And what is the only good card in that collab?
Yusuke.
And why is Yusuke amazing?
Because he just offers a lot of utility from just his one card himself. Like, he has VDP, he has 7 combos, he has a very unique active skill, and he also offers a lot of survivability in high endgame dungeons.
Exactly. So, like, Yusuke is still probably one of the most popular or commonly run leaders, especially in North America, because it was the first collab to feature the monster exchange system, and at the time he was game-breaking, game-changing, so many players, including myself, exchanged for him. And that allowed us to clear lots of content, and in all honesty, at this point in time, he still can clear plenty of content. He may not be as flashy as things like Dark Metatron or Beach Barber and Julie, but he still gets the job done. So, with this collab returning, it's going to be a guarantee that Yusuke will receive a buff. If they don't buff Yusuke in a meaningful way, this collab is kind of just a flop. Like, there's hardly any good cards in this event, so unless something gets buffed to a level that's amazing or they release new cards, Yusuke really has to kind of just carry this collab himself. And in all honesty, what's going to possibly happen is if he becomes strong enough, many players who did not actually acquire Yusuke in the past will probably end up monster exchanging for him. Do you agree with that?
Totally.
Yeah. And I'm assuming you got a Yusuke in North America as well, right?
I did. I traded one for him because I couldn't roll one.
Did you even try rolling though?
Yes.
You did?
I got Jin. That's what matters. I wanted him the most.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I didn't even bother rolling. I just monster exchanged. And then next for the new collabs are Shaman King and Devil May Cry. These we may or may not get, but I just want to say that it is a possibility, but likely no, I feel.
Devil May Cry maybe, but I don't know about Shaman King. Like, this is the first I've heard of it.
Okay, yeah, so it's hard to say in all honesty, but regardless, lots of card buffs occurred. But firstly, Zela won a survey. So how is this survey going to work?
So basically, it's a one-time exchange, so you can exchange it out for an army of Zelas. Mm-hmm. And the main cards you can exchange for Zela is I believe, the Witches, Seal, Known Giga, the 2 new sword equips in the Godfest exclusives, 8-star seasonals, 7-star Dragonbound, Dragon Collar collab, and the 7 stars heroines.
Yeah, so essentially what you'd have to acquire Ideal or any of the 10 Magic Stone cards, the highest rarity, incredibly expensive at a 5-to-1 ratio. So this is definitely not applicable to the average player. There was a lot of unrest, I'd say, in Japan because
the
requirements are... Yeah.
I saw Twitter, I believe on Twitter posts or tweets, there was a lot of rage about how this exchange was unfair.
Yeah, and like maybe to try and offset the blow somewhat, they introduced this new currency called a Black Event Medal, which is basically a flashier Rainbow Event Medal. Essentially what you do is you trade 5 Rainbow Event Medals for 1 Black Event Medal. So in theory, 5 Black Medals can acquire Zela, but at that point, that's 25 Rainbow Event Medals. And at this point in time, I think maybe we've hit 25 now in North America?
Like I haven't been keeping track, but I'm sure we have, but
it's
still...
about 25, I feel now.
It's still not worth it.
It's still, exactly, it's incredibly expensive. So, like, they either have to shower us with Rainbow Event Medals to make this more affordable, because at this point in time, hardly anyone's going to really trade. And the reason why I feel that Zela won is that she has... massive stats, she has amazing awakenings, but certain farm teams for high-end dungeons like to use many duplicates of her.
Like the 3-player Arena 2 one.
Exactly. Like, it's not practical for the average player, so I feel like a lot of people would be much happier if it was a monster point card, even making it, say, like 1.25 million or 1.5 million, because Cotton was 1 million, which is 6 stars, so 7 stars should be a bit higher. That would have been a bit more reasonable. People would be much happier, I feel. At least it's something you can feasibly grind towards, whereas Rainbow Event Medals, you can't actually acquire through grinding, at least. So, card buffs. Tons and tons of cards were buffed, but only certain ones are actually really relevant, I feel, at this point in time. So we're going to go through them together. So the first one is...
Azathoth.
So, what does he do now?
Well, he was granted 2 additional awakenings, the Guardbreak Awakening and the High Grants. I'm not sure what to call it, 80% attack awakening.
That's what I call it, yeah.
And he got some stat buffs at level 110. And according to this article, he'll have 32-52 attack at level 110 with a co-op boost when playing co-op.
Yeah, so basically he can act as a very strong button base, because if you think compared to something like Dark Vag, who has about 1900 base attack at level 99 because there's no limit break yet, they're going to be somewhat similar possibly, because Dark Vag has 2 co-op boost awakenings, Azoth has 1, you also get to factor in plus eggs as well later on.
Dark Vag is yet to get his Reincarnated yet, so
exactly.
He might even get more attack.
He might get more, or just like at least he gets limit break will give him more for sure. So Azoth might be one of the better button bases, as well as being actually a very strong card in co-op, especially on rainbow based teams, because he has high offensive stats. He has basically 2/7 combos, the 80% attack, very high base attack as well. Next is Roshana, and Roshana gained.
If I remember correctly, she got a Devil Killer, Unbindability Plus, or full bind immunity, and L Shield.
Yeah, so basically full bind immunity seems to be the big winner there, I feel. Because, like, damage, at least for Roshana as a leader, is generally not an issue, so Devil Killer is a little redundant, because you make 3 color crosses, things should be dying anyways. So having full bind immunity definitely opens up team building compositions, less heavy reliance on Odin Dragon. Still probably want to use him anyways, but at least it's not as mandatory as beforehand. Next is Light Hera Dragon.
In my opinion, Light Hera Dragon, even though she got buffed, she's still not going to be relevant in the meta today. She got buffed from 9, her cooldown got reduced from 9 to 8 turns, and she got limit stat breaks and super awakenings. But also not only that, her leader skill got buffed from 5 times to 6 times when matching 5 orbs with at least 1 enhance.
And it's that enhanced component that makes her problematic, because at this point in time we have many leaders who have the Connect 5 clause. Basically they can match any 5 Connect orbs. They don't have to have the enhanced, it could be any element. And that's the biggest problem, because generally speaking these 5 orb 1 enhanced teams, they have to either have enhanced orbs across all the colors, which restricts the subs you can bring, and the damage is only boosted for that particular color. Not everything is boosted. So let's say you have a random red card with a fire orb enhance, and then you match the 5 fire. Well, only fire gets the damage bonus. So lots of activation inconsistencies. If your board gets changed to jammers or poisons because you didn't have resist or whatnot, You are not going to have enhanced orbs when you reconvert the board. Just too many problems to deal with as a 5 orb 1 enhanced leader. Next is Hexazeon, and...
Well, the only buff he got from this stream was additional Jammer, Poison, and Blind Resist. In my opinion, this is pretty good. People will probably use him more often now that you can probably achieve 100% immunity to Blind, Poison, and Jammer Resist. Makes it much easier to achieve 100%.
Yeah, and like something on Riku, who also got a buff of the same nature in the past, you have, with double Riku leaders, Hexazeon sub, you already have 60% resist, and it becomes a much easier game of just shoring up that last 40% either through inherits or even just using base subs. Like the Trojan Horse brings everything up to 80%. Pretty amazing overall.
Mm-hmm.
And then Noah Dragon, something that's been kind of forgotten because Machine Noah now becomes a bit more relevant and possibly a bit easier to acquire to a certain extent, maybe. You can play her. You can play her limited time Descend.
Yeah, it does come back from once in a while. But I like this buff. Makes farm building teams so much more easier with that one skill boost alone. It makes so much a difference.
And the main thing that sets Noah Dragon apart from the other full water boards is that you get the full water board, but you also have a relatively large poison component. So that means if they have resolve but no status shield, you instantly kill the resolve. You don't have to worry about it. It makes your life much easier. You retain all your rows for maximum damage output. Next is Dark Raw Dragon becoming available. So tell us about this card.
Dark Raw Dragon was first introduced through Japan in a real-life gacha event. So you have to pay real money to get buy this box. And in this box, you're not even guaranteed a Dark Raw Dragon medal. And if you scan this medal, but say if you did get this medal, you scan it in a Japan exclusive game called Pad Radar. You get the medal in the game, and then you can also get the card in the actual game itself, so Pad. But he was, I believe, Japan teased him how he would have the hardest leader skill in the game, but no, not. It's very reminiscent of the original Raw Dragon. But in today's meta, I don't think he's worth trading.
He's not even that great. Like, doesn't offer much. There's a 10 combo awakening.
I think that's the only thing that's going for him.
His leader skill is just rainbow oriented, really. Isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. It's just nothing that amazing, and he's going to demand 3 black medals or 15 rainbow event medals. So while this is a little disappointing, it also possibly opens the door up to Blue Athena and Light Bastet.
And Fire Reg. You forgot Fire Reg Dragon.
Okay, yeah. So like new cards that we don't necessarily have. So Light Bastet is going to be desirable because
it's the only light card in the game with a 1 turn base cooldown, and I believe it grants you a mass attack for 1 turn.
Yeah. So basically, just having another card with a 1 turn cooldown in a different color makes a big difference. We don't have to just use TARDISes, Gunmas, or Halloween Mines. So new evolutions. So the Greco-Roman 3 Pantheon receive their split evolutions. So it's kind of similar to like how Nohime, Tachibana, and that Pantheon received those. So basically, they're going to retain the exact same active skill as their base form does, but have some more awakens and a new leader skill. So how do you feel about these cards?
When I was posting all this stuff on Reddit, and a lot of people made jokes about Uranus
because you're 5 years old.
Yeah, but in any case, I feel Hestia might be the one that have the best viability. Since she's given 3 skill boosts, that's really good. Let's see, Cronus and Uranus are now unbindable now. Also, Cronus now has a 1 skill boost, whereas in his base form he only had 7 combos, so he didn't exactly have that much utility. But with this new evolution, I believe he'll find much more use
as a sub, mostly.
Yeah,
because as a leader, they're a little problematic. Like they have 225 times attack and actually 75% damage reduction. But the problem is, in order to tap into that damage reduction, you need to match 3 specific colors. So first, you have consistency activation issues, and you can't stall. So it's just going to be a little problematic to use them as leaders. But it gives you a little bit more leeway in terms of what sub you want to bring. The only drawback is their weighted stats are quite low, and a large part of their active skill is tied to a color attribute absorb, which is a relatively not that lethal of a mechanic. Like it's a very rarely seen one, and there's enough workarounds. You can usually just stall at this point in time. Maybe in the future, when certain dungeon spawns have a bit of everything that you have to use a color attribute absorb void, maybe they might have some value. Next is Super Reincarnated Haku. This is a new type of evolution, and tell us how it's achieved.
Let's see. So I myself have Super Reincarnated Haku in Japan right now, but unfortunately she was level 110, so I had to lose that, not end the Super Awakening, so I kind of just wasted who knows how many globes I dumped into her. Let's see, but overall for her material she eats the new gem that has a rainbow event in it, and the new Descended, also known as Chirin, I believe. And the other three materials are Jewel of Creation, and the Trigod Mask, and the Diamond Fruit Dragon.
Yep.
Diamond Dragon Fruit.
Yeah, so like the rare evolution materials, along with a special new thing that's going to require one Rainbow Event medal. So in the future, for future Super Reincarnated cards, they're going to require one Rainbow Event medal. So that might be another justification to not actually exchange for your Zela or Dark Raw Dragon, because if all your favorite Pantheon cards suddenly become relevant and useful, you're going to need Rainbow Event medals to do so. Furthermore, the experience curve on these cards, tell me a bit about that.
It's absolutely crazy. It's more than 3 times than how much XP you need to max level a reincarnated card. So from 60 million, it just skyrockets to 50 million. And let's just say I burned a lot of globes just to max leveled her.
Yeah. Was it worth it?
Yes.
Yes, Haku is love.
Yes.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. But basically, like, Haku at level 110, after you dumped 100 million experience into her, is going to have 1,380 weighted stats, which is quite high. The highest for any Pantheon card for sure. So, like, my hopes were that Pantheon cards would get weapon assists. It would give them give them more viability overall. But this Haku here, it's not that special. It's just a modestly strong combo / tanky, durable leader, but nothing amazing. Its damage reduction is tied to 3 specific colors, which again has activation consistencies. And it's nothing that amazing. She has 4 or 5 TPAs, but again, how useful is that at this point in time? But at least it does give hope for other Pantheon cards that might suddenly become the next big thing, and we may have already had them in our monster box rotting away. Next are the Gemstone weapon assists. So how do these work?
So basically, you max level them, turn them into weapons, and that's it. Alright, so basically weapon assists are special types of cards where when you inherit them onto someone else, they provide a certain number of awakenings. And for the Gemstone series, they will provide you with 500 health, 50 RCV, and their respective 5% color damage reduction. So you have Carrot, it's a 5% water reduction, which might have some help for the new Salamatic, whatever you call it. In Alt Arena 2, the blue dragon. What's it called? That thing. Yeah, I hate it.
So Carrot's a pretty common inherit, so that 5% reduction might have a bit of help because it's a 99% gravity into lots of hits. A little 5% might help. Never know. It's just free. But one thing that I do want to note is that because these are health awakenings, when you are bound, you'll lose that 500 health. And depending on the type of bind clear you actually use, you could be in a problematic situation if you run 100% health teams. So let's say you have Zeus Verse, and the card that's carrying Carrot's inherit gets bound. Depending on the type of bind clear you have, if the order of bind clearing and healing is done in the wrong way, you won't actually be at full health after clearing binds. And that could be problematic. So it's a really niche scenario, not applicable for many things, but it's just something to keep in the back of your mind that maybe don't convert every single Carrot you have into a weapon assist.
Although they do look, the artwork for the assists are really good.
Yeah, definitely a plus to consider there. So next are Godfest exclusive Mega Awoken evolutions. So Mega Awoken evolutions for Godfest exclusives basically transform the card. They gain new awakenings, new active skill, new leader skill, and brand new usages overall. So hopefully they are well aligned to deal with today's current problems, but it's not necessarily the case for all of them. So first is Dantalion, and tell us about him.
Let's see. Dantalion becomes from a cross. Was he a cross lead before?
I think he was.
Yeah, from a cross lead to I guess you could say a combo lead now. So he gets 4 times attack and reduces damage by 25%, and he reaches 7 combos. And furthermore, he gets an additional 3.5 times attack and reduces another 25 incoming damage by 25%, which is, I would say, is pretty good. But the problem is the second part of the leader skill, where he requires 2 heal combos to achieve the second part of the leader skill.
Yeah, so basically, because he needs 2 heart combos to achieve his second part of damage and damage reduction, he's going to have issues with stalling as well as quickly clearing content. Like, a given board on 6x5 has, on average, 5 of each element. You clear the board, in theory, maximum you have is 5 falling down. Obviously, this doesn't work out in actuality, but the general idea is that you won't be able to activate every single turn unless you have active skill intervention, or you just get very lucky. So, because you can always make 7 combos from a given board unless something truly weird has happened, you always have that 43.75% damage reduction. So you could stall through certain mechanics and encounters, but then if you're trying to heal up and stall because you're losing health, well, if you only have 1 heal combo, you're going to have problems because then you just wait for another board and look, you don't only have 1 heal combo again. Kind of repeats this vicious cycle. Like, his base active skill is 6 turns, but he lost his haste component, so there's no system opportunity to kind of just give you that extra layer of consistency. So he feels like just a relatively generic combo-based leader with extra steps, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Next is Paimon, and Paimon gets most of us excited, and why is that?
Well, let's see. To start off, Paimon gets this, when he's above 50% HP, he gets a passive damage reduction by 35% and 4 times attack. But not only that, the exciting part comes in when, for every light or dark cross he matches, he gets 3.5 attack for each one, which is absolutely crazy.
Yeah. So at 1 color cross, assuming above 50% health, how much damage is that?
196, assuming you lead with a Paimon friend.
Yes. So that is actually a respectable multiplier. Like Edward, for instance, is considered a top tier leader. He has 196 time damage. Beach Barbara, Julie, Vraska, they're all 144. So this is actually still a respectable multiplier. And having 5 light or 5 dark should be reasonably doable if you're able to clear the board. Like, one of those is most likely going to have those colors. But then the damage just shoots up to like ridiculous levels with 2 crosses. So at 2 crosses, he has 2,401 times damage. That's outrageous. Like, you're going to kill everything just with 2 crosses. Like, going for the 3rd cross is almost excessive and unnecessary. Most things don't have that kind of health except for the current level 30s Athena, but again, that is not a common spawn at this point in time, because at 3 color crosses, it's 29,419 times damage. Like, silly amounts of numbers on a 6x5 board. That's a little silly. But basically the idea is if you can maintain your health above 50%, which should be reasonably doable, you have good stalling opportunity. And in all honesty, matching just 1 color cross should be able to clear a modest amount of content, because if you have, like, say, multiple 7 combo cards, you can get 7 combos with a single color cross. Paimon has almost 4 times personal damage when above 80% health. Lots of good things going for him. And at least he's new and different. He's not just like a generic combo leader. Puts a little twist on it. And the only problems that I can truly foresee for him is that you're going to have a bit of issues with follow-up attack, because you have 2 crosses for most things and a follow-up attack, but then VDP is going to become problematic. You're just not going to have enough orbs or enough space, and it's just going to be a messy board overall. And then lastly, his active skill actually generates 2 color crosses, a light and a dark cross, immediately. So in theory, you can be the ultimate 1-button 2 combo player in the world with just 2 color crosses, 2,400 times damage. In theory, in co-op, you can have like all Paimon subs with a whale door, and suddenly you have a Paimon every turn for many turns, and you're a high skill player. Exactly. Next is Ilm. So Mega Ilm, what do you think about her?
Let's see. I guess to start off, he has a leader skill that is very reminiscent to Dark Metatron, where he grants 2 times HP to devil typings. But the downside is he have to use the skill to achieve that 6 times attack. But for the 3rd component, if you have to match 4 or more connected light orbs to get 2 times attack and a 25 damage reduction, I would say D-meta is better. He won't be trumping D-meta anytime. I looked through my Japan box and I just realized how limited light devil subs there is. But I guess one thing to note is Awoken Diao-chan is a devil typing, so that is one thing to consider.
But then the problem is you have 2 subs out of your 4 or 6 possible actives that are just kind of dead at this point in time. So you have less opportunities to counter mechanics at hand. And comparing him with Dark Metatron, he has 2 VDP Devil Killer versus 7 and VDP. Dark Metatron has way more universal and accessible damage as a whole. It's just not going to be nowhere near pumping as much damage because his multiplier is also lower. So he has the same effective health, but just much harder team building requirements, harder activation requirements because the active skill of return. You could use Halloween Mine, but then you have somewhat off color. It's going to be just problematic as a whole. So one thing that I can see Ilm doing well is actually being like an interesting swipe farming team leader, because you have an outrageously high amount of effective health, and in theory, using active skill of return in farming teams, you can just make a full board of light and swipe, swipe, swipe. Ilm has 3 skill boosts, 6 between the 2 leaders. He has a nice bi-colored board. Life is going to be much easier for that type of playstyle. What do you think?
Mm-hmm.
Next is Typhon. So Typhon, how do you feel about Typhon?
I would say he's at least better than Ilm, because instead of requiring to use a skill, he requires combos to achieve that 6 times multiplier.
And combos are much easier as a whole. And he has the exact same effective health, so 4 times health, 43.75% damage reduction as Dark Metatron as Ilm. So we're starting to see these like massively tanky and durable teams. And to offset the fact that he doesn't have to be below 80%, Typhon has a lower attack multiplier, which is kind of expected, but at least thankfully the dragon subpool is at least modestly strong as a whole. Like, in theory, what we've come up together is that if you use Halloween Mine with a Kuro Yuri inherited on top, you can have nearly a 200,000 health team in solo mode, and you're healing basically 80,000 health every single turn with the 43.75% damage reduction on top of that. So you're really not going to die, like, ever.
Never.
It's going to be an incredibly durable team, incredibly safe to play. He's resilient against the gravity plus hit combos we see in Alt Arena 2 and Arena 5. So it's going to be quite a robust and exciting leader. And comparing it to Dark Metatron, because they do have the same effective health, Typhon has lower damage output, no VDP, so a little less utility overall. But he does come with the bind clearing through a row, so that can provide a little bit of extra utility there that Dark Metatron does not. So different pros and cons, but you don't have to juggle your health, and you can make basically immortal teams. Pretty nice overall. Next are the 7-star Godfest exclusive assists. So how do you feel about them?
I would say Valkyrie got the... Well, I would say... So it's great. To start off, I would say Athena got the short end of the stick, and the best one will have to be Valkyrie. Mm-hmm. Because Valkyrie equip is the only equip assist with 2 that grants 2 killers. Although they would probably find very little uses, but still 2 killers nonetheless. That is something that's actually crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like that will grant the owning card 9 times personal damage against balance and attacker type spawns. Yes, that pool is small, but when that is the case, you're going to be dealing huge amounts of damage. You stick that on, say, a Beach Barbara and Julie team as the leader, like she's going to be having outrageously high effective damage. Because the thing is, you can put this on your VDP option. Your VDP option, even if it's only getting 3 times more damage, that's basically like a burst inherit you just saved yourself. Mm-hmm. And it's universal throughout the whole dungeon. Like, it's incredibly powerful to inherit killers, and that's why, like in Japan, there's these new Godfest exclusive with a single god and a single dragon.
Yeah, single god, single dragon.
Yeah, so like that's just adding even more layers of damage to those cards. Like, let's say for instance, like your Yusuke is playing through a dungeon, and you obviously need a VDP through it. You can inherit those respective killer awakenings on top of it. He gains 3 times personal damage against that spawn. Makes your life much easier. So Valkyrie is obviously the winner. How do you feel about Zeus?
Like, I think there's another card that reminds me of him, but I can't remember. But I would say Zeus. Only make him if you have duplicates of him. Let's see. All 3 of the Godfest exclusive assists require the same, somewhat same what's it called?
Evolution
materials, yeah. They all require 1 Kila gem and 1 Soamani gem. Mm-hmm. Now, the thing about Kila gem is we have a limited supply, whereas Japan has an indefinite supply of it. So evolve them at your own risk until we get a Kila descended.
Mm-hmm. And also, most players don't actually have that many of these to throw around. Like, I would not convert my soul copy of any of these cards into a weapon assist because they're very valuable as subs or leaders on their own. So with Zeus Giga, you actually have full bind immunity on actually a very long cooldown card. So because of that, you're able to inherit them on things like Halloween Cotton, who was vulnerable to binds, and you now have full bind immunity with some stat transfer, something that we couldn't have done beforehand, if I'm not mistaken.
You have
Asuna. Who?
Asuna from Sora.
Oh yeah, that card, yeah. So there's 2 options, yeah, but you have at least more options, which is not bad, but the cooldown's longer on Zeus, which is the important part for weapon assisting for bind immunity. And then for Athena, why is she the short end of the stick?
The only good thing she got out of this was just a TPA. Now, if she got like a second TPA or maybe even a 7 combo, I would say she would be the winner. Because having a 7 combo awakening on any card, like if you just stick onto a Sewell, you have a personal 64, I believe. Yeah, and it's relatively easy to get 7 combos on any board.
Yeah, so like a single TPA is nothing special. We have welds, we have quite a few other options. Like it's not worth sacrificing a 7-star limited supply card. And yes, you do have 40% blind resist, but again, there are lots of options. Monster Hunter's coming back. You'll get blind resist, weapon assist there. Like there's no real motivation to convert Athena to this form. So in conclusion, how do you think about this stream as a whole and all the announcements?
Well, with the evolutions and all, I would say it's pretty good. But as for game mechanics, not so well. So this stream was kind of rather underwhelming compared to 6th anniversary stream. But I guess one thing to look forward to is the future collabs. Upcoming collabs, because we're getting Monster Hunter back and YYH collab back, and the upcoming Shaman King and Devil May Cry. So save your magic stones for those collabs.
Yes, exactly. And I feel a similar way. Like, I'm definitely saving my magic stones for Monster Hunter. I want to get those valuable weapon assist cards. And in all honesty, the direction they took with Super Reincarnated Haku, the name sounds silly, but it's at least possibly giving the chance for Pantheon cards to have more relevancy again. So that is nice, because a lot of us have these 5-star cards that have been sitting around doing nothing because the meta just doesn't really demand those types of cards. So let me know what you think about this event in the comments below, and what do you think about the Cheerful Chip. Hopefully you'll have a Mantastic day. I wish you all the best luck in your own pad adventures, and
bye.
Happy puzzling! What the fish?